topic or this theme which we have been discussing today is a result of a lot of discussions which we have been having about the theme of the Geospatial World Forum actually. And that's where we got this idea to organize this session. And before we organize this session today, here we have organized about 5 sessions in the past. So our discussions or our agenda which we created is basically based on those discussions in various cities of Europe. But of course, as an organization, we have been talking around the world. So what I'm going to do today is take you through what all actually you saw yesterday. All our speakers were great and they left nothing for me. So that's a good way to say that, yes, you're talking of something which is revalidated already in advance by the leaders of this industry. And whenever I'll go through some of these slides, I'll be fast at some places. As an organizer, my job is also to play the role of filler sometime. So I always keep some slides just as a filler if I have to do something more. But let's see what I have to talk to you. And this is the slide which I'm very proud and controversial. This is a controversial slide as well because everybody says that how do you say that this is a $500 billion industry? And of course, I have some kind of algorithms in the back to calculate this number, because in my definition, the geospatial is inclusive of everything and which is to do with position, which is to do with location, which is to do with maps, which is to do with the coordinates. And what it talks about is basically, this slide talks about is that in the last couple of years, we have seen that the geospatial is adding a lot of value and benefits to various industries. So it is, in a sense, empowering and enabling industries to do their business better, and in a way that is making a cumulative impact on the economy. And that impact on the economy is pushing further back a kind of feedback mechanism to the industry to change, and that change is in the form of system integration and solution-centric industry. And again, that is leading to convergence, integration, and implementation. So this is a kind of, it starts from somewhere, goes to, I do have a laser pointer, by the way, and it goes, so the demand which is coming from the users, either in the consumer sector or the professional sector, is actually driving this industry. So this is creating a new business models around our community, our commercial sector. So when we say $500 billion, let me give you a couple of examples. Like Chinese government says that their geospatial market is about, 2 years back they said $41 billion. And last year they come up with a very official records of about $49 to $50 billion. Looking at, so how do you assess that market, or how do you assess that geospatial industry? We started doing a study in India, and we were surprised to see that our government is spending on the geospatial across various sectors of these sectors, which are economic sectors, is around $4 billion. And when I go and talk to my decision makers, and they pick up the DataTech report, and they say that, hey, DataTech report says that the GIS software market is $3 billion or $4 billion. And then I go and talk to them, they say, hey, you are talking of $4 billion market in India, and then we pick up this report from the internet, and it says $4 billion market in the world. It all depends on how do you actually define geospatial. And that is what was yesterday seen in various sessions where the geospatial came up from different perspectives. So I'm going to talk about what is driving us. Technology drivers, industry drivers, and value drivers, and how that drive is actually evolving our fabric and how the business and sales models are evolving at the moment. We all heard about UAVs. I don't need to talk much, but it is driving by integration of sensors. What I'm talking about is that UAV is a whole stuff, but UAV is being used for a number of things. But when you talk of the sensors on the UAVs, that's where the market is going to be by 5 to 6 billion only for, which is our component to that. Look at Internet of Things. It's going to be making economic impact of 4 trillion by 2025. And I would say that Internet of Things is, people talk about smart cities and all, but I would say ultimately it is going to be smart living. Internet of Things is going to be smart living, that where it will empower ourselves as a citizen or ourselves as a human being to live smartly. Cloud, Sandeep is here. He talked a lot about cloud. It's going to be about 204 billion market by 2018. All these are information which I've collected from different sources. I'm not the author of this information. But what I put together is basically the perspective around that. Look at big data. And what is big data, in my opinion, is aggregating data enabling information analytics. Almost $70 billion by 2021. So, and I'll come to this, how this is driving and autonomous vehicles. We all know about it. So all these technologies which actually are not traditionally GIS or geospatial technologies, but they are driving geospatial content primarily and geospatial solutions afterwards. But at the same time, probably I would say that the question mark is that geospatial driving, or rather geospatial enabling these technologies, and these technologies driving geospatial vis-a-vis. So it's a kind of combined. They cannot do much without geospatial to go to the level of efficiency they want. And we talked about Uber and Airbnb and several such models. Their efficiency in terms of profitability and service is actually driven around geospatial information and geospatial technology. Indoor location. We are going to be surpassing this $12 billion very soon. But indoor location is all about venue management. All of you would have seen, or rather asked few people that which way should I go for this room. And that's going to be more and more important in our lives tomorrow, where you'll see that the way you navigated to World Trade Center through your cell phones, we will be able to navigate within the building as well. So what are the industries which are driving? These are the technologies which have been driving us. The industries which have been driving us is, I would say, social media and advertising, e-commerce, business intelligence, logistics, of course security, but very important, engineering and automation. These are the industries. So what I'm trying to say is that it's not that several other industries are not driving us, but at the moment, if there is something which is making us really change or disrupt, these are the industries where we are heading to. And this is our slide. This is the slide which has been prepared by Geospatial Media, based on about 1,000 entity information sheets. And we see that the biggest market at the moment is defense, followed by construction, transportation, environment, mining, business intelligence, agriculture, water, land, and electricity utilities. Look at that. Electricity and utilities was probably 5 years back at a very high level. But what is high level today is construction, transportation, defense was always there. Business intelligence. So these are the industries which are driving us, but moving forward, value drivers. Yesterday, everybody was asking about what is the value? How do we make money? And people say that we need to make some value for our customers. So what is that value? The value is this: efficiency, safety, productivity, precision, analytics, monitoring. Different kind of users are using our technology for different purposes, and the value which they, for a public safety organization, probably safety is the biggest value which they get. For an analytics organization, analytics as a benefit is the biggest benefit which they get. Or for an organization which is monitoring the change is, or monitoring the change is the biggest value which they get. So people are using this technology across different sectors for different purposes, and this is the kind of values which our industry is delivering to our customers. And again, my favorite slide. We did a study around that, how the benefits are being seen. At the moment, we find efficiency is the largest value which is being seen by our users. And this is based on our interaction with several users, that what do you actually see? So efficiency is something where they find is the biggest values they get. Precision, accuracy, this is primarily the construction guys who see that precision and accuracy is very, very critical to them. And then you also see monitoring data analytics, productivity. But imagine this productivity taking this shape. There was no productivity 5 years before, if you look at the value in our industry. But productivity, we were talking mainly decision making, that this geospatial or GIS is a decision making tool. But GIS decision making tool is going here. Productivity is already on this side, and the moment it goes here, you see that is where we would be making a lot of money. So that's the evolution of this industry, where you see that the customers are looking at. And ultimately, when you have the higher level of productivity, all that will come from efficiency, precision, monitoring, data analytics, and things like that. So at least we have started talking like that. Just wanted to support some of my talks. Say the infrastructure, the CEO of Atkins says that geospatial brings order to construction chaos. I'm here to acknowledge that geospatial is at forefront of engineering technologies. That comes from a CEO of a $15 billion company, simply because he came to my conference, actually. All these quotes are from the conferences which we have organized around the world. And he said this, that this is what we believe about this technology. That's the kind of value which you're looking at. Look at BIM. Somebody said it's critical, particularly in the early planning and design phase, that the information either from geospatial and BIM be available and viewable within a single environment. It's an expectation and a challenge both. That for us, it is very critical that we should do this. These are the users which talking to us. Land management, he's an evangelist. He says that 70% of the land, of course, is in the developing world, which has not been mapped at all. So we're still looking at land management and that's why there's a session going on land cover, land management from yesterday. On a lot of developing countries are talking about that, what challenges they have, and the digital divide is, we keep on talking about efficiency and productivity here, but in the half of the world, we don't have the basic base maps. So we still need to map them. Right from plot identification to crop identification to crop monitoring to yield estimates, everything, the whole insurance business is now, in terms of forecasting their business scenario of tomorrow, depends on geospatial information. Location search, you saw the presentation by Sunil yesterday, and then you also see that he said search is the next thing. Location search is the next thing. You're not going to search just on the, like textual. It's going to be location-based search. So location is the next search, and location has the potential to be the multi-million-dollar, and it is already there. Advertising. This gentleman runs a company which is a $1 billion advertising company, and he says that mobile advertising market is about $20 billion, and 45% of that is location-enabled. He runs a big media house in Washington, and that's what he came and talked to us at our conference. So that's how our users are looking at us in terms of value. So how this has been changing our fabric, let's see. I no more say that now we are a surveying, or we are remote sensing, or a photogrammetry, or we are all about observing the Earth planet. We observe from space, from aerial, from UAV level, from ground surveys, and then now also subsurface. So basically, Earth observation, it's all about observation. So let's talk about observation or geospatial content as a seamless collection process. Of course, the difference is how distantly you are collecting it from, and what kind of sensors you're using, and what kind of information you're going to collect. But actually, it's all doing information collection, observing what's happening on the Earth. And that's the direction I think is happening. It is also very clearly seen in the landscape of this technology, where now you saw this is my concluding thing, and then this is how we are organized today. We are surveying and mapping, we are remote sensing, we are navigation, we are GIS. But ultimately, we are all putting together as a geospatial story, and we are all putting together as a capability here. And who is, again, further pushing us is communications in IT and industrial processes. This is how we are basically getting more and more capability-oriented technology. We are not, we keep on debating that are we an industry in itself, are we an organized industry in it ourselves? But actually, this is our ecosystem. This is our ecosystem of doing business. And this has created things like this. Let's collaborate. There is no business today which is not talking of collaboration. So let's collaborate. So integrated data collecting sensors network, which we talked about, Earth observation from space to subsurface, sharing economic infrastructure and assets. Whatever assets and infrastructure we have created, either in the form of a GPS network or in the form of ground control points, in the form of various kind of infrastructure around, we need to share that and rent that. Cloud-based platforms and delivery of information through apps. This is where we are heading to. See, you're creating information through sensors, you are processing that information through platform, you are building an application through a collaborative model, and then you are delivering that information through apps. This is the direction of the business of our industry. We are delivering that information through apps, not only into a consumer segment, but also in professional segment. For example, like Munich's airport has 800 users of geospatial technology, and they are just having 4 professionals. These 4 professionals provide capability to 800 users at Munich airport, and they just do it by small bits and pieces around, and they do it in the form of apps. So, in my opinion, we are moving towards being a service industry. Geospatial is moving towards being a service industry. Either it is a content as a service, or it is a software as a service, or it is a hardware as a service, or it is a platform as a service. You will see that the cloud, it will not be a storage for you, and that's what Sandeep also kind of indicated yesterday. Cloud will also be a kind of a software processing platform for you tomorrow. And you'll see that all will be starting to rent them and use them as a service. So what will happen is, it's all about cost, SaaS, HaaS, and PaaS, but I would say that let's look at PaaP, like which is pay as per the productivity. That's the kind of business model which is going to be there. That's the kind of challenge and opportunity which we as an industry have. So what happens to our stakeholders and partnerships? This is also going to impact on our partnerships. Our partnerships, which was like services companies, are going to go down, down, down. They were probably at very high level at some level. Resellers of our products are going like this. And the solutions and integration companies are going like this. But this slide is very well supported by this slide, where we talk about what happens that the product companies as a reseller network were trying to capture a market which was already there. But when you came to the little bit bigger companies which are into product plus services, then you start creating market. And then when you go to the development partners who are actually developing a solution for you, then you are actually developing a market. And the system integration companies are actually expanding the market. So whatever expansion we see today in our industry is primarily happening because of these 2 sectors. And that's why these 2 sectors by 2020, I would say that probably going to be very, very seriously upward. And then the business for a lot of small and medium small companies who have not been able to add knowledge around the product portfolios, and they've been traditional distributors or resellers only, for them the business opportunities are going to be very, very minimum tomorrow. So where is the role of public institutions, and where is the role of Alessandro here? And that is the role which you have, sir, that can you share your information infrastructure? Can you help commercialization and industrialization? Institutional strengthening and startup incubation at institutions like universities. And then conducive policy framework. This is what the 4 things which we see is emerging as an opportunity or as a mechanism for discussion with the public sector and the institutional sector. So this like commercialization of capabilities and socialization of risk is something which is a forward-looking approach, where you are talking of that this technology people, this private sector people have a lot of capabilities. So as a lot of capabilities into the research institutions, how do you commercialize that capability? And then when you're talking of commercializing that capability, you're also talking of socialization of risk, because out of 10 such initiatives, probably 2 of them or 1 of them will succeed. 9 of them will fail. The failure is not of that incubator who is coming to do something creative. Failure is of the whole ecosystem. or rather learning is for the whole ecosystem. And this is where I think the public sector has to view this industry or this sector as an incubator. And this is what Nigel said yesterday, that the public money is meant for incubation of the capability. And that's where I think that the commercialization of capabilities and socialization of risk is a kind of topic which I wanted to share with you. And this is the last slide. What happens, I've been doing this, that why with all these drivers, with all these, opportunities, with all these big things around our industry and capability, why we still make, like we are not growing? Why we are not growing? And the reason is very simple. I was talking to, someone yesterday. He said that, I invited someone from Apple to come to Hyderabad conference, and he simply said that, I'm sorry, I cannot come. My management policy does not allow me to talk to you. We have designated people who will go and speak at the conferences. So they are making decisions where they are making decisions for few years, which means that they have a deep pocket. We don't have a deep pocket. If you want to make use of this opportunity which is coming up, do we have a deep pocket to say, okay, fine, let's invest $1 billion or $2 billion and create a strategy for next 3 years? No. Our sales strategies, our sales revenue, our pipeline is always on our head. And that's why several of the senior executives who are at this conference are not in this room, because they're still dealing with their customers. The problem is that how do I do my business of today instead of doing my business of day after tomorrow? And I've spoken to many of these CEOs, and when we create these kind of platforms, they just come and then speak and then go. They don't have time for listening to these things because they have a revenue pipeline coming in the quarter. But that's not the case with those big pocket companies. They put a right kind of person with $1 billion in the pocket and say that let's go and do it. You don't have to worry about so we are going through this process of transformation, and we had this Geospatial Advisory Board meeting, and we discussed about it in a detail, that how we as a company are challenged. So we don't have a big pocket. Our problem is that how do we sustain this transformation? We don't get out of business. We have to still be there. And policy and legal framework is really a challenge, for our industry. We spend a lot of time on debating on this, that how do we fight with, privacy issue, or how do we fight with licensing issue, or how do we fight with aerial photography, issues, or, despite all the great work done by small set, you still have a licensing policy which will be there. You can't create more than 0.3 meter resolution data. You can't create. We still keep on spending a lot of time on debating on these things around. So. And lack of young talent. Young talent is not interested in all these things. They say, hey, I have an idea. Give me money, I'll just go and deliver it. We don't have that kind of environment in our industry. That's why you're not getting young talent coming to this industry. I was talking to some people in about Geospatial Information Bill of India, which is going to be very, very killing bill. So some youngsters came to me, say, hey, I want to move from this industry. I don't want to be under the surveillance of XYZ while I'm doing my profession. So this is a big problem with lack of young talent. Dependence on the public sector markets, very, very dependent on the public sector market, and especially for the Europe. I have spoken to at least 25 companies which are into the business of small medium enterprises. They look at European Commission as a customer. They don't look at European Commission as an enabler. They still want to say that, hey, I'm going to just sell them data. Despite having Copernicus and all, they're still looking at selling the data to them, not selling a capability to them or not selling a solution to them. So you're looking at dependence on the public sector markets. Gap between research and education and industry is big. We are, and that's why Joseph was very, very, reluctant on coming to this event. And I said, sir, you have to come. He said, why? I'm not good at commercial sector. I said, but it's very important that you start bridging that gap. So the people who have been able to get together here is thanks to each one of you for joining us today. But these are the challenges which our industry is facing. And then obsolescence. We don't really realize that how fast we as professionals are getting obsolete if we don't catch up with what is the modern requirement. So thank you very much.